What if one of the most popular pieces of career advice is completely wrong? In his book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, computer scientist and author Cal Newport makes a surprising argument. The secret to meaningful work is not following your passion. In fact, he believes we often have the relationship backwards. For years, we have been told to follow our passion, find what you love, do what makes you happy. It sounds inspiring, it feels true, and yet millions of people remain anxious, uncertain, and deeply dissatisfied with their work. Newport's idea is both simple and uncomfortable. Passion comes after mastery, not before it. And perhaps this changes the way we think about work entirely. Why are we so obsessed with finding our passion? Modern career culture tells us that somewhere out there exists a perfect job, one that aligns perfectly with our interests, talents, and values. Social media amplifies this belief. We see stories of people who left ordinary jobs, followed their dreams, and built extraordinary lives. These stories create an implicit promise. Find the right path, and everything else will fall into place. But this creates enormous pressure. The fear of choosing the wrong path becomes paralyzing. Many people delay committing to any direction because they worry about making a mistake. What if this isn't the right career? What if something better is waiting? What if the perfect calling is still out there somewhere? These questions feel urgent and deeply personal. Yet they all rest on one assumption: that passion is something to be discovered, a hidden treasure waiting to be found. Perhaps the question itself is flawed. Perhaps what we have been told about passion and work is not merely incomplete, but actively harmful. The passion-first approach fails for several reasons. First, passion is often vague. Most people do not have one all-consuming calling. We have multiple interests, and those interests often change throughout life. Think about your own life. The things that fascinated you 10 years ago may not be the things that interest you today. The idea that we possess one true passion creates a false choice. Either you have found it, or you remain lost. Second, waiting for certainty often creates paralysis. People spend years searching for the perfect job instead of developing valuable skills. The search itself becomes a substitute for action. And perhaps this explains why so many people feel stuck. They are waiting for clarity, while life quietly keeps moving. Third, passion-first thinking ignores something important about human psychology. We often become passionate about things because we invest deeply in them, not the other way around. You cannot determine whether you love something without actually doing it, usually for an extended period, often through frustration, often through difficulty. And when you understand this, something shifts. You may not be lost. You may simply be expecting clarity that rarely arrives. And there is relief in realizing this. What if we approached work differently? What if the first question was not, "What does the world owe me?" but rather, "What can I offer the world?" Cal Newport calls this the Craftsman Mindset. Instead of asking whether your work is fulfilling enough, you focus on becoming good at what you do. You invest in skill. You practice deliberately. You seek feedback. You improve. The craftsman understands something important. Mastery requires humility. It requires doing difficult things badly before eventually doing them well. It requires patience. And it requires accepting that meaningful work is often built slowly. This philosophy is deeply empowering because it places control back into your hands. You cannot always control whether you find passion, but you can control whether you improve. You can choose to become more capable, And improvement creates competence. Competence creates confidence. Confidence creates freedom. Why do people love work they have become good at? Modern psychology offers a surprisingly simple answer. Human beings need competence. We need the feeling that we are effective. We need autonomy, the freedom to shape our work and make meaningful choices. And we need progress, evidence that we are becoming better. When these elements come together, work becomes deeply satisfying. Not because it is easy, but because it becomes engaging. Think about any complex skill: playing an instrument, writing, teaching, building a business, even creating videos for YouTube. The early stages are often frustrating. Progress feels painfully slow. The passion is not always obvious. But those who persist eventually develop a relationship with the craft itself. And somewhere along the way, passion quietly appears. The investment creates the love. The passion was not the prerequisite. It became the reward. And that is a hopeful idea, because passion may be built rather than found. Why do some people gain freedom while others remain trapped in unsatisfying work? Newport introduces the idea of career capital, rare and valuable skills that create opportunities. Career capital is the currency accumulated through years of deliberate practice and skill development. People with significant career capital have options. They can negotiate better conditions. They can shape their work. They can choose projects that matter to them. Their skills create leverage. Conversely, those without career capital often feel trapped. They dislike their work, but they have very little freedom to change it. The solution is not a secret shortcut. It is patience. Career capital takes years to develop. Mastery compounds. And the earlier we begin investing in our craft, the sooner we begin earning the freedom that mastery creates. What do people actually want from work? The answer varies, but certain themes appear again and again. People want autonomy, control over how they spend their time. They want purpose, the feeling that their work matters. And they want meaningful contribution, the sense that their efforts make a difference. These things are rarely handed to us. They are usually built. And mastery often creates the conditions that make them possible. When you become highly skilled, you gain leverage. You gain options. You gain control. And control creates space for meaning. Perhaps the goal is not to find the perfect job. Perhaps the goal is to gradually build a life with greater freedom and purpose. Where does purpose come from? Purpose often emerges after years of learning, experience, competence, and deep engagement. It does not arrive fully formed. It grows. Many meaningful careers begin with curiosity, not certainty. People try things. They pursue interests. They follow paths that seem interesting. They do not always know where those paths will lead. And perhaps that is perfectly normal. This is why the pressure to have your entire life figured out can be so destructive. You do not need all the answers. You do not need a perfect 5-year plan. You simply need to take the next step, to invest in the work in front of you, and trust that clarity often arrives through action. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply in the process of discovering what matters to you through the work that you do. Meaningful work is rarely discovered instantly. It is uncovered gradually. After all the career advice, all the productivity systems, and all the pressure to discover our purpose, perhaps the truth is simpler than we have been taught. Meaningful work is rarely found. it is cultivated. Skill creates confidence. Confidence creates autonomy. Autonomy creates meaning. And somewhere along the way, passion quietly appears. Not as a lightning bolt of inspiration, but as a deepening relationship with something you have become good at. This reframes the entire question. Instead of asking, "What is my passion?" perhaps we should ask, "What am I willing to become good at?" Because the things we love most are often the things we have invested ourselves in deeply. The investment creates the love. This is not an argument against passion. Passion is real. Passion matters. But it is often a reward for action rather than a prerequisite for action. And that changes everything. Perhaps the question was never, "What is my passion?" Perhaps the better question is, "What am I willing to become so good at that it can no longer be ignored?" Because the things we love most are often the things we have invested ourselves in deeply. Not because we loved them first, but because we chose to love them through the effort we invested. Passion is not something we discover. It is something we earn through mastery. And perhaps that is far more encouraging than waiting for inspiration to arrive. You do not need a lightning bolt of inspiration. You do not need a perfect calling. You do not need to have your entire future figured out. You need curiosity, patience, the willingness to improve, and the courage to become so good that your work can no longer be ignored. The quiet truth is this: meaningful work is rarely found. It is cultivated. And you can begin cultivating it today. Not by endlessly searching for your passion, but by investing in the work in front of you, with patience, dedication, and the quiet confidence that mastery eventually creates its own rewards. There is nothing wrong with you. You do not need to discover your passion. You simply need to become so good at something that passion has a chance to grow.